Hey folks, welcome to the Clear Creek Hive Mini Farm. Come on along today. We're going to put the door in here. What we have to do is we're going to have to cut out a couple studs. We're going to have to reframe this, put in a header, cut out the exterior sheathing, and install the door. It's going to be a fun day. Okay, so what we have to do here, we have to take these two studs out. This from this stud to this stud over here is 42 inches. The rough opening for the door is going to be 38.5. So what we need to do is we need to put a jack stud in on this side, a jack stud in on that side, and put in the header. I'll also put in a 1/2 inch piece of plywood on this particular stud here, so that we'll have a 1/2 inch piece of plywood, 1.5 inch jack stud, 1.5 over here. That'll get us from 42 to 38.5 wide. The top part of the rough opening has to be 82. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut these studs up here at the top and then pull them off of the sheathing on the outside. Hopefully we won't do too much damage on the sheathing. We'll be able to save it. I know that I'm going to end up hitting nails up here, so I've put an old blade in the saw because I'm darn sure I'm probably going to hit the nails that are coming down through the top of the header on this. But what we'll do is cut this top part out, knock it off, pull the stud out. So that's the game plan for now. A lot of folks will try to take this out with a recip saw. The problem with the recip saw is that the minute you go at an angle, the tip hits over here and it jerks the thing back out of your hand. So I just use a little back saw and cut the rest of the way through. I don't think I hit any nails, so I think I'm in good shape. Like I said, I'm going to try to save the stud to use it as the jack on each side here. Okay, so now that we cut through these, what we can do is knock this top portion out. This is a bearing wall. I'm only taking out a 3-foot section. Now, if this was a larger opening or a bigger building that had a much heavier roof on it, you may want to do a temporary support. What you would do is put a couple studs on the ground and put a little header across up here just to support the weight of the roof. But I'm not concerned about this. This is a small building. It's only 10 by 16. So we shouldn't have any issue as far as weight. Now, I may not have cut all the way through here, so this may break off. It should work pretty good for us. I was lucky. I just missed the nails by about 1/4 inch. Okay, once you get past the nails, we should be able to take this out. That easy. We got the studs out. Now what I'm doing is I'm just banging the nails, side nails back through, so we can pull them out from the outside. That way we won't tear up the side of our hands while we're here working. Okay, so the next step will be we'll build the frame. Again, jack stud over here. Jack stud means that that's a stud that will hold part of a header. This is called the king stud, which goes all the way from the bottom sill plate to the top plate. That's called the king stud. The stud that actually holds the header across of it is called a jack. I don't know if there's a queen. I don't remember any of that part. But then what we're going to do is put a header across up here at the right height, and then another jack stud hold over here holding it up. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is pull the nails out of these, any nails that are left over out of these two pieces of 2x4 that we're going to use as the jack studs. But now what we need to do is we need to figure them at 82 inches, which the rough opening top of the door is 82 inches. So we have 1.5 inches on the bottom. So we have to take 1.5 inches from 82. So 82 minus 1.5 inches, 82 minus 1 is 81, minus 1/2 is going to be 80.5. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut these two studs to 80.5. Okay, a little pro tip here. We already squared off the bottom ends of these. As we said, they need to be 80.5. So what you can do, a lot of folks will bother to make their mark and be very cautious about doing a straight line here and then putting their square on it. If you just go to your 80.5 mark, set your pencil mark, and then drag it away like that on an angle, now you know that the end of that little line right there is your 80.5 mark. Now you can put your square right on that 80.5 mark. And remember to save the line. If you cut the line, you're going to be a 1/16 short, 1/16 to an 1/8 short. If you save the line, you'll be right on it. Okay, so as you know, we cut our 2 jack studs to the right length. Now what we need to do on that hinge side is we need to put a piece of 1/2-inch plywood in there. If you recall, the opening that we have between the 2 studs that were in place were 42 inches. We're going to put 2 studs in. That's 1.5 inches, 1.5 inches, which is 3. So 3 out of 42 leaves us 39. I've got to narrow that down another 1/2 inch, and that's why we're putting the plywood in. So I've just measured these to be 3.5-inch pieces. This is 4 foot long. So I'm going to cut these, and then we'll cut it to length to match the hinge side of the stud. Okay, so as you saw from before, the actual opening from that stud over here to this stud over here is 42 inches. So I just made a header that was 42 inches long. It's obviously you want to have this be the same thickness as the 3.5-inch stud wall. So you have 1.5 inches, 1.5 inches is 3, plus 1/2 is your 3.5 inches. This width is going to be the same as your studs. So this is your header that you want to put up in there. What we'll do is should be able to take this and set this right up on top of the 2 2x4s and bang it in there. Hopefully, if we can just set it up in there. Okay, just like that. Now that's holding that in place temporarily. What we're going to want to do is we're going to want to slide our couple pieces of plywood in between here. If you can see it. Like so. And that's basically it. We just have to screw it in place. Let's see if we can take this one over here. All right. Okay, that's it. Let's double check. In the perfect world, we should have 38.5. 38.5. Now, this isn't going to be, well, we'll take it to the floor. From the floor is going to be 82. Okay, and remember what we got to do next is we're going to cut that piece of sill plate out. Okay, to mark where you want to cut the sheathing off the outside, there's two ways to do it. You can drill little teeny holes up at the corners, top and bottom, or what you can do is just take a screw and put a screw through. All you want to do is be able to mark where that is on the outside so you can use a circular saw to make that cut. Lots of folks will use recip saws. The problem with the recip saw is many times you can go on an angle and you can end up scalping your studs and stuff. I don't really want to do that. So what we're going to do is we're just going to put some screws out at those corners, and then what I can do is use that as a tool to wrap the snap line on. I can wrap the snap line around this screw and wrap around this one and snap my line. Same thing from top to bottom. Then you just remove the screws before you start. This siding is 1/2 inch thick, so what you do is you set your saw to a 1/2 inch depth. That way you won't cut too badly into the studs if you happen to hit a stud or if you're off just a little bit. Okay, this is one spot where you have no other choice but to use the Sawzall. Okay, rough opening's ready to go. Just got to set the door in. Now that comes the fun part, because it's important that you have it plumb, you have it level, and you have it true. If you want your door to truly be able to stay in place and not swing open automatically, it must be completely plumb up and down. It must be completely level from side to side, and it must be plumb this way or true this way to the wall. If there's any one of these deviations, the door will either bind or open by itself. So we'll do the best we can here. This is a shed. It's not perfectly level. So we'll do the best we can to try to get it plumb, level, and true. What I do is I get some of this peel and seal aluminum waterproofing repair. It's primarily for roofing materials, but you can. It's a self-adhesive weather stripping. So what I do is I put this as a sill plate underneath, and then when we get done with the sill, as you know, the sill will hang over this actual wood base right here, probably by about 1 inch or so. So what I did is I peeled back enough to be able to stick it down here and on the sides to be able to create this drip edge, and then when we put the bottom piece of wood underneath the sill to reinforce it so you don't have a bouncy sill, this can be peeled over and go right on it. That way any water that drives into the door or comes down will not rot out the sill plate. It should hit this weather stripping and run out. So that's the game plan here. The next thing we're going to do is set the door. I can't lift the door by myself. Had my wife help me lift it up into place, and what we did is we centered it into the space as best as we could. I had pre-drilled holes halfway up, 41.5, and just screwed it in place here. That gives me a gap on the inside of the studs on both sides, which will allow me to take shims and to be able to shim this. Well, again, what you want to do is you want to make sure that your hinge side is completely plumb and absolutely level, plumb up and down. and then you're going to want to make sure that your right side is plumb up and down. And then you check the gap on your door. If there's a gap up at the top of the door, you may have to shim the bottom of the sill on this side. What I do is pretty much let it set on this corner over here, give myself enough space here to be able to shim this way, and then that will allow me to be able to totally make this door plumb, level, and true. And as you saw what we did on the bottom here, now what I'm going to be able to do is have a continuous flashing that goes underneath the sill. I will take a piece of pressure treated 2x4, rip it to the right length and make it the right width it is and the right length that it needs to be to set it up in here, then peel the rest of the flashing off and wrap it around it. Then we can paint it to match the house. That way you've got a complete drip edge that if water hits in here and runs out, it doesn't get up underneath here. And of course we'll caulk this at the bottom when we're done. As you can see, there's a little bit of a gap on this side, which will allow us to shim that out. Now what I can do is take my level and put it up against the door jamb and see how level we are. And we're off level a little bit. The door has to shift a little bit. In order to be level, it's got to shift probably about 1/4 of an inch at the top, and it's got to go out 1/4 of an inch or so on the bottom. So what I'll do is I'll get some shims. We'll shim out the bottom first over here. We'll double check it. And then if it needs to come this way, we'll shim the top over there. Okay, got this shimmed up. This is totally plumb here. I'll finish shimming it in without moving it at all. And then what I'm going to do is re-screw the outside over here to make sure that this is totally tight. So as you can see, we've caulked up the door in its entirety, both on the inside of the brick mold and the outside. The door is fully set in. It's all been leveled, plumb, and true. We installed the bottom sill plate, the extra piece of 1.5 by 3.5 pressure treated wood to support the sill plate at this point here. And as you can see, the flashing material wraps over that. So any water that hits the door or hits the threshold will run down and come to the flashing and then roll off. It won't go in and under and get the actual sill wet underneath and rot it. So that's what we did. Come on in, we'll show you what it looks like on the inside. This is what it looks like on the inside. As you can see, it's true all the way around. The gap is the same all the way around on the inside of the door, and it came out real well. And it's actually true so that when you open it, it actually stays in the open position. So that tells you that the door is true. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Give us a like, give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and stop back and see us here at the Clear Creek Cabin Mini Farm. God bless you all until the next time we see you.